Van Dyke, the war in Ukraine has the world on edge. The state of North Dakota is looking into an investment of $1.5 million of legacy funds into the Russian Federation. The state investment board is meeting Thursday to review the bonds that North Dakota owns, which were issued by the Russian Federation. Governor Burgum says North Dakota stands with the freedom-loving people of Ukraine and in opposition to the ongoing attacks by Russian armed forces and President Putin. Now, while governments may be reluctant to send troops to support Ukraine, volunteers from all over the world are ready to fight. British men are among those answering the Ukrainian president's call for foreign fighters to join the war against Russia. CBS's Riley Carlson reports from London.
Hello, yeah, we've come to join the Ukrainian army or whatever they're called.
Leon Dawson has no military experience, but he's joining a steady stream of civilians signing up to defend Ukraine. He's collecting secondhand military gear with his friend and says they know going to the front lines could be a deadly move.
We're young, strong, fit men. We can help, so why not?
Waza, that's just a nickname, is a military surplus supplier. He's sending hundreds of old UK uniforms, similar to Ukraine's military, but is making one alteration.
I'm taking all the insignia off because what we don't want is any propaganda from the Russians saying there's British troops in, obviously, Ukraine, when there's not.
These Ukrainians have filled a truck with medical supplies, mine detectors, and body armor to drive 1,200 miles to Ukraine.
All right.
William is a former U.S. soldier who flew to Ukraine to volunteer for the fight.
So I was on a contract in the Middle East, and I saw what was happening, so I'm like, screw it, let's go.
Back at the embassy in London, would-be recruits keep coming.
I'm 60, which means I'm just about within the age range they'll accept.
Going to great lengths to fight for the Ukrainian cause. Riley Carlson, CBS News, London.
Britain's defense secretary says only trained and experienced fighters should even consider going to Ukraine. He says for everyone else, there are humanitarian ways to help. As people around the world have been rallying in support of Ukraine, some are gathering outside the United Nations building in New York City. The rally is called the No-Fly Zone over Ukraine, and it kicked off this morning across the street from the UN. Dozens are crowding the area to speak out against what's happening, and their message is clear.
To send a message to all politicians, because now it's not about only politics, it's about civilians.
Organizers say they plan to hold more rallies in the days ahead until the Ukrainian people are, quote, at peace. All 31 member countries of the International Energy Agency have agreed to release 60 million barrels of oil from their strategic reserves. The group says they want to send a strong message to oil markets that there will be no shortfall in supplies as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The countries hold emergency stockpiles of 1.5 billion barrels of oil. The release amounts to 4% of stockpiles. Russia is currently the third largest oil producer, contributing about 12% of the global oil trade. Some 60% goes to Europe, another 20% to China. Russia's invasion has shaken markets globally, sending prices soaring. This is only the fourth time in history that the countries have done a coordinated drawdown since the reserves were established in 1974. Well, Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson joins us now with the first look at the forecast. Hutch?
A little cooler today, Stacy, and as we head into the evening, we're going to see another shot of flaky weather work its way in. We did get reports of 2 to 3 inches out to the west of the FM area, light fluffy snow. Temperatures today reaching the teens north, only 20s in Fargo as opposed to those mid-30s yesterday. And the 20s were a rule down to the south as well. Gray skies on your commute home, but the flakes are not flying. And well, the wet roads became icy, so take it easy. Look at the temperature spread across our region. Teens north, 14 up in the Hallock area right now. It's 40 in Mobridge. How about that? 62 banana growing degrees in South Dakota's capital of Pierre. Here's a look at some more precipitation forming in the oil patch. Some of it's freezing rain and some of it's snow. And it's going to be making its way into our region in the overnight hours, making for another chance for some slippery commuting conditions. Winter weather advisories posted for some of our counties as a result of this overnight snow and some mixed precipitation. Steady temperatures for all areas overnight. We'll have details on some cold weather, and we'll have well, the track and timing of our overnight mixture of wintry weather next.
All right, thanks so much, Hutch. You have the opportunity to name West Fargo's new elementary school. That school will be located west of Veterans Boulevard and north of 52nd Avenue South. District leaders say they want the name to represent a famous figure, whether locally or nationally, a place or a symbol that captures the essence of the school. You can submit names starting today through the end of the month. We have a link to the form right on our website, valleynewslive.com. Just click on this story. The winner will be chosen April 25th. Tonight's State of the Union address would normally be a time for cheers and jeers, but this is not a normal year. Russia's invasion of Ukraine will loom over the president's address and will likely be the first topic he raises. The president will need the lawmakers in attendance to pass an emergency spending bill to provide more arms and aid to Ukraine. But the war in Ukraine will hit Americans in the pocketbook, so the president will have to deal with the economic consequences. Mask and vaccine rules remain a divisive issue in the country, and protesters are expected to bring it to Capitol Hill. Masks are optional for lawmakers tonight. Some roads are being blocked to keep lawmakers safe.
Lowering costs for child care, lowering costs for elder care, lowering costs for prescription drugs, those are not done yet. So he will reiterate his call for Congress to move forward on those.
A new CBS News poll shows 70% of those surveyed disapprove of how the president has dealt with inflation. We'll be streaming tonight's State of the Union live on our website. Now, fencing and National Guard members have returned to Capitol Hill ahead of the president's address, and as a trucker-led protest is making its way to Washington, D.C. The People's Convoy is a group of drivers who say their freedoms are being run over by COVID-19 mandates and mitigations. All the truckers hope to make it to D.C. by this weekend. The People's Convoy plans to make a few more stops along the way to the country's capital. The death of a young man in Minneapolis has spurred a bill seeking to restrict the use of no-knock warrants from coast to coast. Earlier today, Representative from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, introduced the Amir Locke End Deadly No-Knock Warrants Act, which bans quick knock warrants, all nighttime warrants, as well as the use of flashbang stun grenades, other explosive devices, chemical weapons, or any military-grade firearms. The bill also calls for establishing strict limitations on the use of no-knock warrants in drug-related investigations. A new report estimates nearly 500,000 families don't have reliable child care, keeping parents at home and contributing to the worker shortage in the U.S. The report was published by Wells Fargo Economist today. Daycare centers can't find enough workers, which has led to a 12% decline in staff since before the pandemic. According to Wells Fargo estimates, that leaves about 460,000 families scrambling to find reliable long-term child care. A new business in Hettinger has the community buzzing. Commercial Bee Supply opened January 1st, and they've been busy building bee boxes and other supplies for beekeepers. North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana are the top honey-producing states in the nation, but until now, there hasn't been a supplier in the area. Beekeepers had to travel to Minnesota, Iowa, and Oregon to get supplies.
They've been going a long ways to get them, so we felt like it was important to have them here in town. People come here, bring people to our community, shop locally, just to benefit our community in general.
So far, Commercial Bee Supply has created 7 new jobs in Hettinger. Tim says that could grow to more than a dozen. Well, today is Mardi Gras, and partygoers are out in full force. Though some celebrations have been smaller, New Orleans' big event promises to be elaborate and professionally produced. From costumes to floats, this year's parades are a big improvement over the last 2 years. Most of the 2021 carnival season was canceled because of the pandemic. Only a few activities were held. But the party comes to an end tonight at midnight as Lent begins.